once you have your pattern pieces printed out, you're just going to tape them together at the edges. Don't overlap them. They're just going to go right next to each other. Make sure the arrow right here just lines up. All right, now I'm going to cut each of these pieces out. I'm just going to go ahead and use the elastic guide and cut my elastic piece right now. So I'm just going to take my elastic and line it up there and cut it so it's the same length as the guide. Just that simple. And then I'm going to set this aside for later. I'm going to cut out the stabilizer first. I'm just going to pin it at the edge. Now I am going to use the same pattern piece. So let's get the stabilizer out of the way. See this line, it says fold this line for lining. So I'm going to fold that line. Okay, and now this will be the pattern piece for the lining. I'm going to use this. So I'm just going to put it at the corner. Now I'm cutting out the pocket pieces, and if you look, it says right here, cut 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I've got my fabric folded, and I'm just going to pin it now so I can cut them both at the same time. Make sure it's lined up underneath. The outside fabric, this is the main fabric, front and back, also requires 2. So I'm going to, just like the last one, I'm just going to use the raw edge here. This edge is a little bit shaggy, so I'm going to move it away from this and just cut off that messy part so it's nice and straight. Now we have all our parts cut and ready to go. It's very important that you follow the shape of the pattern on all of these, because they should all be the same width. So as long as you followed the shape of the pattern nice and straight and accurately, everything should be the same width, so they all line up together. So I've got all my pieces, I've got my elastic, and now I'm ready to start assembling my notebook cover. Starting with the front and back main pieces, we're going to put our elastic in and sew those together. We want to know where the center is. We just need to do one. So let's go ahead and fold it in half and iron that crease right there so we can find out where the center top is. Okay, so we're going to use that line as our guide. And I'm going to fold the elastic in half like this, making sure these ends meet together. We don't want it like this. We want to make sure that the ends are together. and they're going to go right there. This is probably the trickiest part of the whole project. We want it at the edge. Okay, so we want it even with the edge. We don't want it sticking off the edge, and we don't want it away from the edge. It needs to be at the edge, right over that center fold mark. Okay, then this one is going to go on top of that one. Okay, with the elastic staying right there between the two of them. There it is. So it's even with the other edges. I'm going to pin it. You got to really stab it hard with the pin when it's this many layers. But it's right there. I can see the edges right there along with the edges of this, so I have it in a good position. So just keep pinning across the top so the edges are together like that. And we're going to sew across here using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. All right, I'm going to start all the way on this end and sew up to the elastic. When I get to the elastic, I can feel it right there. Now I'm going to take that pin out because my needle's holding the elastic in place. And I'm going to back stitch again across the elastic and then keep going to the very end and back stitch. So it's extra back stitched right there over the elastic. That's sewn across there. And I'm just going to open it up. There's my elastic right there. I'm going to press this seam open. Work around the elastic, don't worry too much about it. Okay, we'll just lay it down to one side. Okay, so now the stabilizer goes right here, and it should be the same size. Yep. Okay, so all I'm going to do is get some glue on here and then place this on there and heat set it with my iron. So let's just go around the edges. A little down the middle. Okay. And then actually I'm going to flip it this way because it wants to curl up. Okay, so it's stuck on there evenly. I'm going to smooth it out. Just pressing out any bubbles. And then heat set it pretty quickly. You don't want to wait too long because the glue will start to dry and you don't want that to happen. You want to heat set it while the glue is still wet because then it causes your layers to stick together really well. So just like that part's ready. Looks good. All right, time to get the pockets ready. And this is just really easy with both of them. You fold them in half. Make sure your ends meet. Press them well. Try to get a good fold right there. There we go. All right, those are ready. Okay, time to start putting all of this together. So here are your pockets, folded and ready to go. And they're each going to go in place at the end of your main front and back piece. So your raw edge here is where the raw edges of this are going to go. Right here. Make sure the fold is up here. Don't accidentally do it so the fold is at the raw edge and then you've got this opening up here. That is not going to work out. It needs to be raw edges meeting here with the fold right there. And then just glue around this edge, stay close to the edge, right where that pocket's going to go. The sides of the pockets. And the bottom. Okay. Put it back there. Smooth it into place. Looks good. And then heat set it. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. All right, time for the lining. So what I'm going to do, the lining is going to be placed on top here. And if you notice, it's shorter than this, and that's on purpose. It's going to go clear down to this end, so make sure it meets the end. And then there's going to be a gap here where there's a difference. That's the way it's supposed to be, so don't worry about it. You'll see why as soon as we go to turn it right side out. So starting on the edge underneath here, we're going to put glue and then put this back in place. All right, so I start here, smooth it down to the end, make sure it's lined up evenly on the sides, and then iron it down to here. All right, that's the way it's supposed to look. And now all I'm going to do is sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance around all 4 edges. Here, 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 and here. Just 4. Don't sew this shut. Leave this part open. To make it easier to see while you're sewing, I'm flipping mine over and I'm going to sew it on the side that has the stabilizer. I'm going to stay on the outside edge of the fabric, but I've got the stabilizer up and my fabric is underneath. So I'm just going to start at the very edge. So I've sewn around all 4 edges. You can see it better here. I don't stop and pivot at the corners. I go all the way to the end and go across at the corners. You can see they crisscross. When I know I'm going to be crisscrossing at the corners, I do extra back stitching right in this spot. You can see, because I'm going to trim my edges down to that area, and I want it to be really strong so that it doesn't come out right there. So it's time to trim my corners, and I'm going to cut off some of this excess seam allowance around the edges. Time to turn it right side out. So what you want to do, I reach up and I just scrunch it down on my hand so that my fingers are at the end, and I just pinch it between my fingers there and start pulling it out this side. You can see right there. There we go. That's looking good. I'm going to get my turning tool in there, my pokers, and kind of get those corners out. Dull end first. All right, that's good enough for now because we still have one big step to take care of. First of all, I kind of want to iron it nice and flat. When I iron it, I want to make sure it's not, let me show you, it's not crooked so that you're ironing it like this with that showing. You want to have it so it's not peeking out on the sides, and on the other side you see that the purple isn't peeking out there, so that you know it's nice and flat. Okay, now we still have this to deal with. So what we want to do is smooth it down this end to this end as much as possible. We are going to glue under this edge. So the glue will not be where you can see it here. It will be under the edge. So you're going to peel that back, get some glue in there. And I'm using a good amount. I'm not being shy now because I really want this to stick. So there's the glue. Then I push it from this end up so it's nice and tight. You want your fabric nice and tight, and then press it in place. Okay, so that's good. Now the pockets are on the wrong side and it's time to flip them over to the inside. So you're just going to reach in here and flip them that way. Get in there with your tools. So when you trim the corners, that is so at this point you get decent squares. That's why before we flip it, we trim the corners and kind of minimize some of the thick seam allowance. I'm going to get those pushed out. Now we're going to come to this end, and that's going to hide this. We're going to flip it over. And now no one will ever know that that is where you turned it right side out. It's just nice and clean and finished. Get those corners out and then give it a really good pressing. Okay, that looks good. We got one more thing to finish this off. I want you to edge stitch all the way around all four edges close to the edge, and this time you will pivot at the corner. So you'll leave your needle in and turn the corner on all four corners. So I'll do that right now. I've got my fabric lined up underneath the edge stitch mark on my presser foot, and now I'm going to move my needle a little bit to the left so that it is off to the side of that edge a little bit. So I've moved my width position to number 4, so it's at the edge a little bit to the left, and I'm going to go all the way around. At the corner, I'm stopping with my needle down. I'm going to lift my presser foot, pivot my fabric, lower my presser foot, and go to the next corner. Now I'm going to repeat that same step on all corners. I'm done edge stitching. I'm gonna just clean up my threads. Okay, it looks good. It's really cute. So now all I'm gonna do is take my notepad. To put the notepad in, you want to open it all the way like this so that you've just got each of the covers, front and back, sticking out. Lift them up. Place them in like that. Okay. Then it goes like that. And then you've got your pencil, which goes right in here. And there it is. Great job.